So Facebook fam, this is the Awakening Speech, A Nation on the Rise, Part 8. Okay, where I left off at, in Psalms 97, verse 7. Confused shall be all they that serve graven images. So if we go to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad book, The Black Stone, The True History of Elijah Muhammad. If we go to page 294, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us that both book warns of the coming judgment. Both book warns you of a great separation. You say that you don't want to be separated. You're a disbeliever in the word of God. On that day, they shall be separated, says the Holy Quran. Bible says, and the Son of Man shall set, he shall set and he shall judge the nation, for all shall be judged before him. And the judgment will be, says Daniel, and the people of God, the ancient will come, and they will take away the prey. They will come and take their people in the night of confusion, at a time where all the nation was confused. Okay, and he says that Moses, the Bible says, went out under a physical darkness. That was a physical darkness. And the Bible teaches us that Moses told him, not a dog shall move their tongue. Now the Bible teaches, and the Holy Quran teaches you, that we also will be carried out under darkness, but not under a physical darkness. It's not necessary. Under a spiritual darkness, when brains not working right, they will go out while they are confused. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad telling us that at a time of confusion, when the nation, the leaders in the Nation of Islam are confused, when all these political leaders are confused, all this turmoil and chaos going on in the White House with President Trump and against all these nations, everybody is in turmoil and chaos and confusion right now. This is the time of darkness. This is the wilderness where the child had the wisdom, universal light had to reach that child in the wilderness of darkness, a time of confusion, a time where conflicting emotions was at its pinnacle. So he says that confusion, as it is written, it is taking over America. Every hour in the day, they are trying to find a way out of their own troubles, which is getting worse every hour. Each one trying to blame the other. And finally they jump on the president and talk about assassinating him. But they never got too busy yet to stop and try to stop you from going over to your own. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad telling us that. This is page 294 of the Black Stone, True History of Elijah. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is telling us that the people was going to be, every hour, you see nothing but confusion. Look on your world news every day. You see nothing but confusion in the political world in the United States. You see nothing but confusion in the Nation of Islam. Confusion all over the land. I gave you an order and my testimony against the nation victory speech. I told y'all I was going to take away the spiritual riches. You thought I was talking about the physical, your money. The wealth of the United States ain't going nowhere. These people print money. You can't take the wealth away from the United States. They got money printers. They print, even if they don't have the gold and the diamonds to back up that paper, that note. They print money. They keep on printing money. You can never take away the wealth of America. And all the brothers in the Nation of Islam, y'all confused. Y'all think that when Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells you that the money and the wealth of the United States was going to fall. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not talking about money. He's talking about the spiritual understanding. That's the wealth that's going to be taken away. And all the people was going to be in a state of darkness, of confusion. That's the wealth that I want you all in my testimony against the nation when I gave y'all order of demand to bring the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to the forefront of the Islamic congregation. I told y'all that me and Allah was going to take away the riches. Now all you brothers in the Nation of Islam, y'all bumping heads, divided against each other. The United States government divided against each other. Chaos, turmoil, and confusion. All your riches, your spiritual guide. Your spiritual guide, I done knocked him in the head and I took away his riches. Minister Louis Farrakhan, he confused right now. There's no more spiritual guide, the leaders out this confusion of turmoil that the United States is in with the different nations. President Trump going all over the North Korea, all over these different nations trying to bring about peace. It ain't gonna be no peace. It's gonna get worse until all the nations just gonna clash with each other. Those are the spiritual riches that I told you I was gonna take away from you. If you don't bring the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to this nation, the will of Allah to the four corners of the globe. You wouldn't listen to me. You wouldn't listen. You didn't want to listen. You thought I was something to play with. I was just a something that's parked about the clear blue sky and talking Islam. I told you I was going to take away the spiritual guide. And all my knowledge that I brought to y'all, that I done knocked the spiritual guide up out of the way. There's no more spiritual guide, no more spirituality that can guide the United States up out of all this trouble that the United States is in right now with these different nations on this earth right now. It ain't no more spiritual guide, man. That's over with. Ain't no more the darkness of confusion. Okay, now let us move on. Now, for 42 months, the child was to be in the wilderness, crying in the wilderness. If we go to Matthew chapter 27, 45 through 53. Now from the 6th hour, there was darkness over all the land to the 9th hour. So that's 3 years. From the 6th hour to the 9th hour, that's 3 years. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Ali, Ali, Alama, Sabachthani, that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that said, this man calleth for Elias. And the straightway of one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on the reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, let it be, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the build of the temple was rent in twain, from top to bottom. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and the many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So now that's the 7 circles around Jericho. That's the 3rd year. I started my prophecy 2017. So now 3 years of my prophecy. In the 3rd year, I'm to resurrect fully into full power and take over the nations of the earth. That's in the 3rd year. From the 6th hour to the 9th hour. I was to be crying in the wilderness. The Ishmael and was to be crying in the wilderness for 3 years. Mary and her child had to flee into Egypt for 3 years. It says that, now if we go to Matthew 12:40. Matthew 12:40. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man, be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The heart of the earth symbolizes the belly of the beast. For 3 days and 3 nights, the Son of Man was to be preaching in the wilderness. And after that 3rd year, the Son of Man was to resurrect fully, was to come into the pinnacle, the apex of universal truth. Right now, y'all just getting a little taste of the chastisement. See, right now, Allah just gave me a small portion of His creative energy to bring to y'all, so that a small portion of His spiritual understanding to wake y'all up, slap y'all on the wrist, slap y'all in the face, to wake y'all up and let y'all know it's time. But after that 3rd year, Allah gonna instill within me the fullness of His power. And the 3rd year, I'm going to be resurrected, the 144,000, and the head of that 144,000, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. We're going to be resurrected fully. That's going to be the 7 circles around Jericho, where we're going to tear the wall down and take over the Nation of Islam and take over the whole universe. Imagine that. Imagine that. Kaaba Kashif Muhammad and that 144,000 soldiers, them 144,000 soldiers gonna take over the world. Think it's a game? It's real, man. It's real. So now, the Son of Man gonna be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, just like Jonah was in the belly of the beast for 3 days and 3 nights. The belly of the wilderness of sin, the darkness of confusion. The Son of Man was going to come at a time where the nations was confused. The Son of Man was going to usher in that confusion. When I gave my testimony against the nation and told y'all to bring the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to the forefront, that was the ushering in of the darkness of confusion. That's the spiritual darkness, conflicting emotions that you see going on in that White House right now, that you see going on in the Nation of Islam right now. All these conflicting emotions trampling over each other in the Nation of Islam. Can't nobody get along in the Nation of Islam right now. Can't nobody get along in the White House right now. Nobody get along in that political arena in the United States. United States can't get along with no nation. All these nations springing up and coming against the United States. That's the darkness of confusion that the scriptures refer to. That's the heart of the earth. That's the belly of the beast. That's the cross. That when it says Jesus from the 6th hour to the 9th hour, when Jesus, it was darkness over the land. If we go to back to Matthew 27. Matthew 27. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour. Matthew 27 verse 45. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried. So in that 3rd year, Jesus cried and resurrected fully up out of the darkness. So in that 3rd hour, that's the resurrection. That 3rd year. I started my prophecy 2017. It's 2018 now. 2019 will be that 3rd year. So we almost there. So now if we go to Revelation 12:6. Moving right along. When we go to Revelation 12:6, it says, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,203 score days. So when a woman gave birth to the child, Master Muhammad, clothed with the sun, moon, and stars, universal truth. And he laid that universal law, the will of Allah, as the foundation to bring forth, to raise up a child. And that child had to flee the woman. That child becomes a woman. That child fed up off that universal law. And now that child is about to give birth to the 144,000. That child becomes a woman in the wilderness now. So now, after Mustafa Muhammad, the woman, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1 through 6. And there appeared a great one in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, moon, and star under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So now, the woman symbolizes Mustafa Muhammad, the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So Mustafa Muhammad laid that universal law down to bring forth the child. So that child fed up off that law in the wilderness. That child drunk that water that sprung up in the wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael. That child fed up off that universal light. That child used that will of Allah that Mustafa Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad gave us. And now that child becomes a woman in the wilderness itself that's about to give birth to the 144,000. So now, but that child had to flee into the wilderness, but she had a place prepared of God that they should feed up their 1,203 score days. So that child was the prophecy in a time of darkness for 3 years. At a time where all the nations and political and religious figures of the nations and the political figures was confused. For 3 years, that child was the prophecy in the wilderness. At a time of confusion. At a time where all these leaders was focused on trying to bring about peace, that child was to rise up at that time of period in world history and as a thief in the night, was to take the righteous from the wicked. At a time where all these people was confused, where they don't understand what's going on. That child was to come as a thief in the night. The Comer by Night, Surah 86. Surah 86, the Comer by Night. That child was to come at a time in world history, a time of dark, where all the people would be confused. That's when the Comer, that child was to come and gather all the flock together and make the exodus of out the land of wickedness. And prepare the 144,000 people, prepare them to be the rulers. Now let us move on. So now, if we go to Revelation 11:3, it says that, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 score days, clothed in sackcloth. That's Revelation chapter 11, verse 3. Where God was saying that I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 score days, clothed in sackcloth. So for 3 years, Jesus was the prophecy at a time of darkness, at a time of confusion in the wilderness, a time of darkness. Jesus, for 3 years, for 3 years in Matthew. Now from the 6th hour, there was darkness all over the land until the 9th hour. That's 3 years. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried and was resurrected. So we see that in Revelation chapter 11, verse 3, I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 score days, clothed in sackcloth. So for 3 years, darkness was to be over the land, and this Jesus was the prophecy, was to bring the universal truth. The truth was to reach this child in the dark at a dark hour. For 3 years, this child was the prophecy. Now let us move on. So now, in Genesis, okay, let us go to the comma by night. Let us go to the comma by night. Surah 86. The night visited, comma by night, Al-Tariq.
Come to witness the heaven and the visitant in the darkness of the night. And what should make you know what the night visitant is the star of piercing brightness. Remember, guardian is appointed by God over every soul. Therefore, let every human being consider from what material he is created. Created from a jetting fluid, issues forth from between the loins and the breastbones. Verily, he who created him the first time has the power of bringing him back to life in the hereafter. A day when the hidden things shall be exposed. The person who has engrossed himself in worldly affairs shall have neither power to defend himself, nor will he have any other helper. I call to witness the clouds that rain over and over again, the earth that burst forth with herbage and with springs. Verily, this Quran is a decisive word. It is not a vain revelation. And they, the disbelievers, devise a device against it. In return, I too devise a counter-device. Therefore, grant the disbelievers respite. Yes, grant them respite for a little while.
Okay, now, this is the Comma by Night, Al-Tariq, Surah 86 of the Holy Quran. Okay, it says that in verse verse 9.
Day when the hidden things shall be exposed.
So now, this child was to come at a time of confusion and reveal on a day when the hidden things shall be exposed. This child is to expose all these foolishness that's going on in the Nation of Islam. This is the Comma by Night. This is my job. This is my work of exposing all these hypocrites and all these devils in the Nation of Islam. Farrakhan and Ismail and Nuri and Sister Ava Muhammad. All these hypocrites. Because that's what they is. That's what y'all. Hypocrites in the Nation of Islam. Okay, the Comma by Night is to come and expose all these hypocrites, and I'm gonna get deep into that there real soon. You just hold up. So now, this is what the Comma by Night is all about. Surah 86, Al-Tariq. This is the Comma by Night. This Al-Tariq symbolizes that child that was crying in the wilderness. That child that was rose up symbolizes Jesus that was rose up at a time of darkness, spiritual and political confusion. So we know what Al-Tariq and the Comma by Night in the Bible, Surah 86 is all about. Okay, now let us move on. So now, for 42 months, the child was to be crying in the wilderness. So now, we know that in Genesis, Okay, we know that in Genesis 21:12-14, God said that he was going to make the child Ishmael a great nation. In Genesis chapter 21 verse 13, it says that, and also of the son of the bondwoman, which symbolizes Mustafa Muhammad. The child of the bondwoman, the child is Ishmael, which is the prototype of my work, Kaaba Kashif Muhammad. Ishmael symbolizes me. I'm that child that's crying in the wilderness. So also the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is thy seed. So it's, and then if we go to verse 18, Genesis 21 verse 18, arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in thine hand, for I will make him a great nation. So we know that God said that he was going to make that child crying in the wilderness a great nation. So we know that in Jeremiah 5:15, moving right along. In Jeremiah 5:15, it says that, lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far, O house of Israel. House of Israel symbolizes the nation of Islam. That's in the house of Israel. The house of Dianetics, the house of the white Jews. Said the Lord, it is a mighty nation. It is an ancient nation. A nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understand what they say. So the language symbolizes the universal truth. The nation of Islam, Farrakhan don't understand the expoundment, the proper exegesis of what Elijah Muhammad was teaching us, the will of Allah. He never taught it. The nation of Islam don't understand the universal law. It's too powerful for a hypocrite. So now Allah said he was going to bring forth a nation that was going to, the nation symbolizes Ishmael, which is the prototype of me, Kaaba Kashif Muhammad. I'm the fulfillment of that child crying in the wilderness. Everything you're reading in the Bible is only a picture of what was going to take place right now today. Everything what you're reading in the Bible is only symbolical stories of using other people's history to tell you of what's going to take place right now, this very second. So now, Allah said he was going to bring a nation against him. Now we go to Deuteronomy 28. It says that, and the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, the ends of the earth, and swift as the eagle fly, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Universal law, the will of Allah. A nation whose fierce countenance which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. And he, that nation symbolizes a single entity. And he shall eat the fruit of the land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he had destroyed thee. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fenced walls come down, wherein thou trusted throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body, the flesh of thy sons and thy daughters, which the Lord hath given thee in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith thy enemy shall distress thee. So God, Allah prophesied to send a nation, said he was going to send a nation against the hypocrites in the nation of Islam. Allah prophesied that he was going to send that child, he was going to make that child Ishmael. Ishmael built the Kaaba in Mecca. Ishmael cleared the way clean all that wickedness about the holy temple in Mecca thousands of years ago, and him and his father Abraham put that black stone in place. That black stone symbolizes the coming of that last one, the line of the tribe of Judah, which symbolizes me. So all this took place thousands of years ago. All this took place. Abraham and Ishmael put the stone in place over that Mecca. The same stone that all the Islamic people make the 7 circles around and bow down and worship. That symbolizes me, Kaaba Kashif Muhammad. So Ishmael and Abraham paved the way and cleaned up the Islamic temple over there in Mecca and placed the stone in the place. This was a symbolical picture of me, of what I was to do in the last days. Clean up the nation of Islam and establish myself as the ruler over all nations. Me and the 144,000, which symbolizes that black stone that Ishmael and Abraham put into place thousands of years ago to represent me and the 144,000 and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And me, the second phase of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And now I'm 144,000. So Ishmael paved the way. Ishmael set the sign up for the coming of God in person. The line of the tribe of Judah, Kaaba Kashif Muhammad, and that 144,000. Now let us move on. So now, the child will be teaching in the wilderness. Let me check my device. So the child was to be teaching the righteous nature, which is universal truth and righteousness, the will of Allah, righteous creative energy, which symbolizes the third eye, the high nature of the black nation. That's high nature. That every black man and woman on this earth got the nature to connect with the will of Allah, righteous creative energy. So that child that was crying in the wilderness symbolizes that child that was to be teaching a higher teaching of the Honorable Elijah, the higher teaching of the will of Allah, bringing that universal light to the nation of Islam, to the world. That symbolizes the higher nature of the black nation. The black nation got 2 natures in them. We got our lower self, the body of desires, conflicted emotions, envy, lust, hate, greed, violence. That's our lower self. That lower self was grafted up out of us, which is the white man, 6,000 years ago. All that wickedness that's bottled up within our nature, within the black man, it was a body made for it. And that's the white man. It was grafted up out of us 6,000 years ago. So we got dual natures. We got 2 natures, which is dual, D-U-A-L, dual natures. Our high nature and our lower nature. We can connect and rise above our emotions if we connect with the will of Allah and feed ourselves with the universal truth. The universal truth will rise us above our emotions. Our conflicted emotions, it'll smooth all that out and bring about balance and harmony. It'll bring about balance and harmony within our own self if we connect with our higher nature. So now, it's prophesied that that child will be crying in the wilderness for 3 years. He will be preaching the higher nature, the higher learning, the universal truth, the will of Allah, the full expoundment of the will of Allah, the full exegesis of the will of Allah. A higher teaching will he use to bring to the people in the nation of Islam to separate the good from the evil. So now, if we go to so for 42 months, the child would be crying in the wilderness. So now, Allah said in Deuteronomy, He told the nation of Islam, when Master Fard Muhammad came to the Nation of Islam in 1930, Allah, it was already written, the curses that Allah would bring about in the Nation of Islam if they don't comply in full compliance with the universal law. Allah said that, but it shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 27, starting at verse 15. But it shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments and his statute which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Curse shall be thee in thy city, and curse shall be in the field. Curse shall be thy basket in thy store. Curse shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Curse shall be when thou comest in, and curse shall thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he hath consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with the blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heavens that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thy feet shall be iron. And the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten for thy enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the Emirates, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou cannot be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of heart, and thou shalt grope at noonday, and the blind gropeth as the blind gropeth in darkness of confusion. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So now, these are the curses that the Lord prophesied to come against the Nation of Islam. So we got 2 separate forces coming at the Nation of Islam. Okay, we got the nation, the Ishmael that God said he was going to bring against the Nation of Islam, that was going to bring the universal truth to push the people in the darkness. That nation, that mighty nation that I just got finished talking about, that God said he was going to bring against the people. And then we got another force that was going to come that I just got finished talking about. We got another force that Allah said he was going to bring against the Nation of Islam, what I just got finished reading to y'all. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth under thy feet shall be iron. So we got 2 forces. We got the yin and the yang. And Chinese philosophy is called the yin and the yang. The dual nature. The nature of universal truth, the will of Allah. And then we got the nature of evil, the nature of wickedness, which symbolizes the cross. The 2 different nations, the dual nature of the black man. The higher third eye, the spirituality, the righteous creative energy that the black nation got the nature to connect with. And then that lower self, that body of conflicting emotions, of envy, hate, greed, and lust. That lower self of wickedness and falsehood. It's two natures in the black man, the yin and the yang. We got dual natures, D-U-A-L, dual natures within us. Okay, so it's two separate forces that Allah said that he was going to bring upon the land in the last days. The forces of righteousness, righteous creative energy, the universal light that I'm bringing to the people. And then you got another force that was going to come in the land, which is, it said that, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass. This is the forces of falsehood. Brass symbolizes falsehood. It says that in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 23, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thy feet shall be iron. So now we got, let me check my device. So we got two different forces that's going to be on the land right in the last days. And this child was going to be hanging up on the cross, was going to be in the middle of these dual natures, which symbolizes the cross. We at the crossroads now. We can go either that straight path, we can go that straight path, which is universal truth, or we can go that other path, which is the falsehood and Dianetics and sorceries. Those dual natures symbolizes the cross. So when you got a negative wire that's touching a positive wire, you got the positive wire symbolizes the universal truth that I'm bringing to the people. The pinnacle, the apex of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, the will of Allah, the righteous creative energy. That's the positive wire. Then you got the negative wire, which is our lower nature, which is Dianetics and all these sorceries and witchcraft, all these Scientology that's in the nature of Islam, which symbolizes the darkness of confusion, the wilderness of sin. So you can go either up or you can go crossways. You can go either that righteous way, that righteous path, or you can go that wicked path, that brass path. That path of conflicting emotions, that path of religious falsehood, Dianetics and sorcery. So we got a cross here now. So when these two wires connect with each other, when you got a positive wire that's touching a negative wire, what you got then? What's going to happen? A fire is going to come about. This is the spiritual burning that the Bible talks about, that God was going to use fire in the last days. This is the fire of hell that the Bible talks about, that's going to purify the people. In order for Allah to purify the people, Allah must bring about the negative. He must bring the earth into total darkness, spiritual confusion, the wilderness of sin, conflicting emotions of envy, hate, greed. All that must come to its pinnacle. All that must come to its apex. All that must reach its peak in world history. Now when all this negativity, sorcery, witchcraft, Dianetics, Scientology, when all this reaches peak, then Allah bring forth the universal light in the dark. Allah brings forth the universal light. He raises up a child, and that child brings forth universal law to the people of the earth. And that universal law comes in a time where all this negativity is at its pinnacle. Universal light comes in the dark. If we go to Psalms, we go back to Psalms 18. We go by the Psalms 18. We go by the Psalms 18. It tells us that Psalms 18, verse 11. He made darkness his secret place. His provision round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. and the brightness that was before him. His thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave up his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. So the high symbolizes the wisest common man among the common people that grasped that universal law in the wilderness and gave his voice in the wilderness, hailstones and lightnings. Yeah, he sent out his arrows and scattered them. He shot out lightnings and discomfited them. So now, in the dark, it says that he made darkness his secret place. So Allah came and Allah sent the righteous creative energy to that child at a time of world history where all the people was confused. All the political leaders in the Nation of Islam was confused. All this negativity was at its pinnacle. Scientology, Dianetics, all the confusion in the White House. This is the negativity, sorcery, and witchcraft would be at its peak. So at that time of darkness, Allah was seeing this universal truth. He was to make this universal truth reach that child in the dark. Once that universal truth reached that child in the dark, and that child bring forth the will of Allah at a time in world history where all the people was confused, it would bring about a spiritual burning. So now the darkness symbolizes the darkness of confusion, and the universal truth reached into the darkness of confusion. It symbolizes the cross. The child had to hang upon the cross for 3 years. He had to preach in the wilderness of sin for 3 years. This is the Jesus hang. This what Jesus hanging on the cross. This was the Jesus hanging on the cross is all about. The yin and the yang. The negative wire touching the positive wire. The negative falsehood touching the righteous creative energy touching the negativity. When righteous creative energy, when righteousness, the will of Allah, enter at a time of total darkness, it brings about a revolution. It brings about a spiritual burning. It brings about motion. The same when 78 trillion years ago, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that all it was material matter. And that the power of Allah took the matter out the darkness and brought the matter into motion. So now Allah plans to recreate the universe again, the same that he did 78 trillion years ago, when all it was just matter, material matter. There was nobody there to bring forth the will of Allah. So Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that there was a light that was born in the darkness, total darkness, the darkness of melanin. It was a light born in the darkness. We don't know how long that light was there, but that light created itself out of an atom of water. It was there for untold trillions of years. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the power of Allah took the matter, came into the darkness, took the matter out the darkness, and moved the matter into the motion. And that atom moved the atom out of the darkness. And that atom started rotating and became a revolving light, rotating, building itself up in the womb of the universe. And for 6 trillion years, building itself up into 4 elements, earth, wind, fire, water. And from those 4 elements, the black man came into existence. So this is the beginning of creation. So now Allah intends, let me check my device. Allah intends to recreate the universe again now. So Allah brings the universe in the total darkness. Allah brings the whole entire universe into total darkness, chaos and confusion, where there's no spirituality to spiritual guidance in the world. All the leaders are confused. All the political leaders, all the leaders in the White House, all the leaders among the nations of the earth, all the religious leaders in the nation of Islam. Everybody confused. There's nothing but matter. There's no spirituality. There's no universal light to saturate the ground. The whole universe is dry. The whole universe is in falsehood, witchcraft, sorceries, Dianetics, Scientology. There's no spiritual guide. The spiritual guide, which is Louis Farrakhan, the one that the White House and the Pope of Rome and all them uses as their spiritual guide. The minister Louis Farrakhan, he confused right now. He in the world of Dianetics and sorceries right now. Allah done twisted up his mind and confused him. I gave the order of demand for him to bring forth the universal light. He wouldn't comply. So now he confused right now. So the whole world is in total darkness right now, as it was in the beginning. When there was only total darkness, there was only matter. There was no universal light to saturate the darkness and bring forth the universal law. Until the power took the atom out the darkness and moved the atom into motion. So now we at the recreation again. Allah bringing it back as it was in the days of old, at the beginning of the creation. Now Allah intends to recreate the universe again now. Bring the world into total darkness. Then raise up a child and instill his universal law into that child. Bring the positive wire into the darkness. Once that positive wire touch that darkness comes at a time in world history where the world is in total darkness. Once that positive wire touch that negative wire, now we finna move the atoms into motion now. The 144,000 is to come into spiritual motion right now. Imagine that. Imagine that. So now, this is where we get our cross, the yin and the yang, the dual nature. A time of confusion where all the world is in total darkness. Then the light enters the darkness. This is the cross. We got going straight up perpendicular, righteous nature, universal law, that child bringing in the universal law. Then we got the other nature, the lower nature, going this way. So now you at the crossroad. You can take that way up perpendicular, or you can go sideways into the hell of damnation. So now the positive wire touches the negative wire. Now we got a cross now. We got a spiritual burning. We got a baptizing. We got a resurrection. This is what the baptizing and the resurrection is all about. This is the fire that God promised in the Bible that he was going to bring about. He said he destroyed the people of Noah with water. But the next time he come to destroy the earth, it's going to be with fire. A spiritual burning. It's going to be with fire. That positive wire going to touch that negative wire. That total darkness, and that positive wire and that negative wire going to bring forth a spark. Like he did 7-8, like he did in the beginning. And that fire, that negative, that positive wire was going to take atoms up out of the total darkness and move and start about a revolt. Move the atoms into motion. This is the law of motion. This is the same law Allah God used in the beginning. The law of procreation. The law of motion. The law of reproduction. So now, we got two forces coming to the temple to purify and cleanse the temple. If we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 11, it says that, but the court is without the temple, leave out, and measure not, for it is given unto the Gentiles to tread 42 months. So now, we see that the Gentile was to tread the temple 42 months. It said, and there was given me, okay, we're in Revelation chapter 11, verse 1 through 3. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave out. Okay, the court that is without the temple symbolizes the hypocrites in the nation of Islam. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God. The temple of God is the nation of Islam. And the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, which is the hypocrites in the nation of Islam, leave out. And measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city, which is the nation of Islam, shall they tread underfoot 42 months. So now, the Gentiles is to tread the hypocrites in the nation of Islam. Was to enter, the Jews is to enter the temple of the nation of Islam with Dianetics. When the Jews infiltrated the nation of Islam. For 42 months, they is the Jews, they is to bring that negative wire into the nation of Islam. Bring the Dianetics and the sorceries into the nation of Islam. For 42 months, 3.5 years. Now at the same time, now we go to Revelation chapter 11, verse 3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,203 days, clothed in sackcloth. So now we got a child crying in the wilderness, using that universal truth, that well of water that was given to him in the wilderness. He was to bring the universal truth into the dark at a time of confusion. But at the same time, the Gentiles was to be treading the temple of Allah, the nation of Islam, underfoot 42 months, the same amount of time that child was to be prophesying in the wilderness, in the darkness. So now, at the same time, when Dianetics and sorcery and witchcraft and Scientology, all that was to enter into the temple, nation of Islam, that child was to rise up and bring the universal truth in the nation of Islam at the same time, at the same amount of time, 3 years. This is the yin and the yang. This is the cross that we talk about. This is the dual nature, the higher nature and the lower nature. All this was to clash together and bring about a spiritual burning, bring about a resurrection, bring about a baptizing, bring about a purification of the temple of Allah, which is the nation of Islam. Okay, we go to Daniel 8:10. See how much time we got. Okay, Facebook fam, I'll catch y'all in video 9. We got 1 more minute, so I'll catch y'all in video 9. Y'all tune in. Y'all stay tuned.